Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. A few things, background. In many of our temples in North America, I'm sure St. Louis is one, we have gradations or degrees of persons who have been participating in the temple for some period of time. And then there are persons who are kind of in the newer category of but still coming for some time. And then there's very, very new people. So gradations. And both for the new people who are coming to our temples, it's training and education is particularly important because people come with different ideas and different backgrounds and different traditions and different differences, which is fine. And it's important for those persons that are coming to have some introduction, basic introduction to the etiquette that is ideal for someone who's practicing bhakti, or Vaishnava etiquette. Not like people are ill behaved, but it's nice to have a scriptural, clear picture of the social conduct that enhances and fosters and nourishes bhakti by training and education, how to do that and how to avoid the things that cause messes. That's for the newer people. And then another thing that's in the category of for the newer people, the people that come new, they may see in the Sangha of devotees some speech or behavior that makes them wonder what's going on. Meaning, sometimes there's some conflicts, sometimes there's groupism within the congregation, sometimes. And they're not expecting that. They're expecting the pedestal. And that's not always the case because people are becoming purified, and it takes a while to become purified. By the bhakti process, one becomes purified. There's scriptural teachings that confirm yasyasti bhaktir bhagavat yakinshana sair vair ganaish tatra samasute sara. Those who are practicing bhakti in course of time, in a natural way, the qualities, the characteristics of the devas become manifest or decorations of that devotee. So it's true, that's what the Bhagavatam teaches. However, it may take some time. And one of the reasons that it takes some time is not the problem of the bhakti process itself, because bhakti is pure and very powerful. However, there are features that block our experience of the power of bhakti. And if that's the case, then progress is slow. Purification is slow. It's still possible, slow. So then comes the question, how to enhance and overcome the obstacle or obstacles. It's described within Canto 1, Chapter 2, that it's the bhakti process itself takes care of that. The anarthas or the abhadras are removed by the bhakti process itself. However, part of the bhakti process itself is being conscious of what those unwanted things are, those abhadras or anarthas, and simultaneously, the very simple teaching, there's effort and there's mercy. Like the pastime of Mother Jasoda binding Krishna. She couldn't bind Krishna, so she got more ropes. And you put those more ropes together with the other ropes, and they were still 2 inches too short, and more ropes, and it was still 2 inches too short. Her effort was insufficient. Logically and mathematically, it should have been sufficient. But Krishna didn't want. So the rope wouldn't go around. You know the pastime. She is puzzled. 15 feet of rope, and his waist is no bigger than my fist, and it still is 2 inches too short. And it's always 2 inches. What's the 2 inches? What's going on? So when Krishna saw Mother Jasoda's effort, and she was perspiring, and flowers was falling from her hair, he saw she's in great distress, so I'll allow her to bind me. The effort and mercy. That's a very important teaching of the Damodar Lila. We must make effort, but effort alone is not sufficient. Effort and mercy. So that's where the receiving blessings part comes in. When you offer respect to one who is respectable or worthy of respect, then blessings naturally come. So that's the topic that I just narrated is at length described in Canto 3, Chapter 29. Kapila Dev, teaching Devahuti, the title of the chapter 29 is Explanation of Devotional Service. So quick outline of that chapter, this is review. Kapila Dev has already taught Sankhya exhaustively, and now he's moving because Sankhya is meant to bring one to bhakti. There's a connection between the two. So when he's describing devotional service, he gives a little definition of what bhakti is. This is review of chapter 29. What is bhakti? What's pure bhakti? And what's the process to attain pure bhakti? The 4 verses describing what you do to get there. And then, when you get there, here's what it looks like. And he has this wonderful verse that's like description of pure devotional service. Fantastic. And then there's characteristics. Specifically, one who achieves pure devotional service, even if there's no material desire, and even if the Lord offers material or even up to liberation, 5 types of liberation, mukti, the devotee says no thank you, because they don't want mukti, they want engagement in devotional service. They want association of devotees that will inspire them and support them in their engagement in devotional service. And then comes our main topic, which is, however, the yabad. Sometimes there's something that blocks the power of bhakti, so that we don't experience the fullness of the power of bhakti because something is blocking it. And that something that's blocking it, Kapila Dev identifies, and 2 of our acharyas, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Jiva Goswami, elaborately describe those descriptions of what blocks bhakti as envy, because it's the most pernicious and difficult to overcome of the unwanted things within the heart, the anarthas or abhadras within the heart. It's very, very difficult to get rid of. So he identifies stages of envy in 4 verses. That's what we've been discussing. One of those 4, the first of those 4, we're going to hear today. And the first is, well, the verse itself says, persons may be engaged in worship of the deity. That's bhakti. That's one of the direct limbs of bhakti, archa marg, the worship of the deity. So they may engage in the worship of the deity while honoring the deity on the altar and not honoring the expansion of the deity in the heart of every living entity, and therefore neglect others who are worshipable because of the Lord within their heart. And that's an offense. The offense is caused by envy. The envy isn't specifically of the person, but they're the target or the recipient of that envy, but then it's envy of the Supreme. So envy of the Supreme can manifest itself as envy of others. But behind the others is the Supreme. So that's a problem. And that problem causes the power of bhakti to be blocked. It's like, this morning, early morning, the forecast was snow. The sky was, it was getting ready to snow. You couldn't see the sun, although the sun was up. You could see that the sun was up, but you couldn't see the sun because something was blocking the clouds. Like that, like clouds block the sky, about the sun. The sun isn't diminished because of the clouds. Our experience of the sun is diminished because of the clouds. So cloud removal, or anartha removal, or envy removal became the topic. And then the remedy, there's several part remedy, very specific within chapter 29, but one of the principal prominent features is respect. Respect is a medicine for the disease. The disease is envy, and it's an unhealthy state. Is there such a state as a living entity that doesn't have envy? Yes, that's the spiritual world. But to enter into the spiritual world, you have to become free from disease. You have to become free from envy, free from the misgivings of heart. The heart has to become pure. And then the respect is a remedy, a fundamental remedy. And then there are different ways of offering respect. So that's our topic. And one other thing, because we're going to hear some Sanskrit terminology. Yesterday, day before yesterday, one of the verses was one of the presentations was describing Chanakya Pandit's teachings, Chanakya Niti. And one of the teachings from Chanakya, we remember, those of you that are with us, you remember, we saw the diagram of a tree. And tree has different parts. Prabhupada teaches us over and over, you water the root of the tree. And when you water the root of the tree, that's Krishna, he's the root of existence. When you water the root of the tree, then all the parts of the tree get water by pouring water on the root. Try to pour water on the leaves and the trunk and the branches, and that's not how water goes in. Root. That's the example that Prabhupada gives. The example that Chanakya gives is elders, respecting elders. There's a nice Sanskrit phrase, you'll see it shortly. By respecting elders, that's the root. Because, 1, 2, 3, 4, by respecting elders, it nurtures humility. and the quality of respect to those who are worthy of respect. Those are elders. In Vedic culture, elders are respected. In Western culture, generally not. The whole thing becomes flat. Hierarchy becomes tossed out the window. We're all equal. All men are created equal, endowed with their Creator certain inalienable rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Ki Jai. Declaration of Independence. No culture. The culture of no culture. It's unhealthy. It's a disease. So healthy is respect. So that's according to Chanakya Pandit, that's the root. And it nurtures through respect. It helps get rid of envy, but it also enhances humility. And humility is, in this chart, diagram, is the trunk of the tree. And when there's humility, you live your life in not the material, but a proper respect to elders, then it helps control the senses. There are things you just don't do, and things that you do control the senses. Vidhis and nishedas, the do's and the do-nots, are strengthened by culture, Vedic culture, Varnashram culture. And then from the branches, which is control of the senses, comes what grows on the branches. If it's a fruit-bearing tree, then it's fruits. And then there's degrees of fruits, according to Chanakya Pandit. There's the little flower, and then the flower becomes a little fruit, and the mature state, the vijnana is the fruit. Knowledge that is practical, so knowing who you are, and then knowing who is the Supreme. So they're sequential. So one isn't going to know who isn't going to know who they are, who I am, without those prior elements. The fruit doesn't come from a tree that has no limbs and no branches and no trunk and no roots. It's a nice comparison. It's sociological. It's peaceful society, how to organize society. But his teaching is start with respecting and seeking the blessings of those who are elder. One elder is or superior. One is age, and there's other criteria and more important criteria than that. Here's a nice little example. A nice little example is when Vidura was on pilgrimage. I mean, there's a number of circumstances where someone's on pilgrimage. Vidura was on pilgrimage because he was so badly insulted by Duryodhana that he wasn't just like, I'm insulted, I'm leaving. He wanted to be in service to his brother and to the kingdom. But the eldest son of his brother was nasty and offensive. And so he tried to advise Duryodhana thrice. And Duryodhana couldn't take it. So Duryodhana insulted loudly in public assembly and calling Vidura bad names. You're the son of da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. You know how people do. And who his mother and father were have nothing to do with his wisdom. He was the wisest. Dhritarashtra, everyone knew. Bhishma Dev knew. Everybody knew. But not Duryodhana. So he insulted him. So a point came where Vidura felt, I tried to do some service, and there's no service for me here. So he left. And rather than, he could have just gone to Krishna, but he thought, I'm in this contaminated state from being in this unwholesome, toxic association for so long. First, I need to purify myself. So he went in pilgrimage for purification. And he, the places he went are described. And then he ended up, he went, as many do, he went to the Himalayas, and then he went down, 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 and then up the western side of India, and found himself in Dwarka, or outside Dwarka. And he went outside Dwarka, he came to know firsthand, just after, he got there just after Krishna departed, the fratricidal war, the big battle of members of Krishna's family got in a big feud and in an intoxicated state killed each other in Prabhas. You know the pastime. So he knew everyone, and Krishna had left, and he knew firsthand. And he felt terrible because he was a great lover of Krishna, what to speak of the associates of Krishna, the whole of Dwarka. He continued his pilgrimage, and he ended up in Vrindavan. In a forest of Vrindavan, he saw Uddhava. This is Srimad Bhagavatam. And Uddhava, when you see Uddhava, you think of Krishna, right? Because he even looked like Krishna. He looked so much like Krishna. When Uddhava came to Vrindavan as a messenger of Krishna, the resident of Vrindavan thought, he came back. And then they looked more closely, and he didn't come back. It's somebody else. Because they didn't know Uddhava so well, but now they came to know he's not Krishna. But he so much looked like, so you see Uddhava, you think of Krishna. So Vidura, although he knew that the residents of Dwarka were gone, he started asking about the residents of Dwarka. Why? Because Uddhava was an intimate resident of Dwarka. He knew everybody. How's Krishna? How's Balaram? How's Ugrasena? How's this one? How's that one? And Uddhava was silent. It's really nice. Bhagavatam is really nice. He went into a state of trance. He lost external consciousness, absorbed in thought of Krishna. But there's his elder uncle, Vidura. So he struggled and came to external consciousness, and because he wanted to serve him, because he's elder person, you serve out the elders. So he went into this whole soliloquy about Krishna. And Krishna, then Krishna in Vrindavan, then Krishna outside of Vrindavan. It's really wonderful narration. And Vidura didn't let on that, I knew that everyone has departed. I just wanted to hear you speak of Krishna Katha. Thank you. Then he asked him some more questions, some philosophical questions. Vidura is as high as you can go in terms of his spiritual development, his bhakti capacity. He is topmost person. When Vidura asked, this is the critical point for what's on the screen here, our topic. When Vidura asked Uddhava further questions, Uddhava was hesitant. Uddhava said, not far from here is Maitreya, and he's elder to me. He's my elder. He didn't say, I'm up here, so ask me, that's just fine. He deferred to the elder, although he was spiritually superior to Maitreya. That's a history. Maitreya, before meeting Vidura, he was known as an impersonalist. Not as spiritually elevated as Uddhava, that's for sure. But he deferred to him because his position of being an elder. And his spiritual capacity was great, although not personalist. So he folded palms, said, "Go that away, you'll find Maitreya." So that's what Vidura did. He found Maitreya, and then they had a wonderful conversation. Questions, answers, conversation. The point is, respect going to the one who is elderly, although the elderly may not be as spiritually advanced as the younger. It's just it's a matter of etiquette. And cultured people follow etiquette. As an example. So this is part 2. What we did the last time, that was Thursday evening. This is the same slide began Thursday evening, and the same, title: offering respect and receiving blessings. And we heard some very nice narrations and teachings, and it causes success in all spheres of life. When Chanakya Pandit amplifies this teaching, he says, when one attains a state of understanding the Supreme and oneself, and has control of the senses and respects superiors, then everything material spiritual is at their fingertips. It comes to one who has that accomplishment. Then comes this next topic. Aside from respect, what if there's disrespect? Because a failure to respect is a type of disrespect. A common example. Supposing somebody comes to visit you, and you got your cell phone going, and you're talking to them, and you're text messaging while you're talking to them. How's that person going to feel? You're with them physically, but you're not present because you're distracted by your text message. And sometimes it happens in class, and sometimes I have to say something. Prabhu, please pay attention to class and stop text messaging. I hope nobody does that here, because you can be I'd be uncomfortable saying it, but sometimes it needs to be said because it's disrespectful. If something pressing, okay, but maybe excuse yourself, go some corner of the rooms elsewhere and do your text messages and come back. Be present. That's the message. So we've heard it before, and now we're going to hear it again. There's an incident that you all know very well, and that is when Indra was disrespectful to Brihaspati. Indra's the king of demigods. He's not only a demigod, he's the king of the demigods. And Brihaspati is the spiritual master of all the demigods, including Indra. And one time, Indra was having a big festival in Indraloka. And the big festival was worship of Indra. He really liked it. He was like, everyone who was there. Haribol. It was nice. However, just circumstantially, and who knows how many times Indra saw Brihaspati before that particular part of the day and offered respects to Brihaspati, because that's what you do when your spiritual master is present. He stayed on his Vyasasana. Not Vyasasana, his raised seat, his elevated seat of King Indra. And so there he is enjoying a jewel, that's himself, and there's Brihaspati. And he recites, after Brihaspati saw the scene and he just turned and left, he addresses the assembly, all the people there for his big Indra puja, berating himself, scolding himself publicly, this and that. What's the use of all my opulence? It's made me proud, and because of my opulence and pride, I've offended my spiritual master, and woe is me. Fie on my worldly opulence, my piety and the fruits of piety and, dharma and artha. Because look what it did. I've offended my spiritual master. So then there's this verse, text 13. We saw this Thursday. One of the statements he makes publicly, if a person says that one who is situated on the exalted throne of a king should not stand up to show respect to another king or a brahmana, it is to be understood that he does not know superior religious principles. There's nothing wrong with sitting on a nice seat. There's nothing wrong with respecting him for whatever the reason they were respecting him. But when that situation is there, and in comes the spiritual master, or a brahmana, or another king, there's a matter of respect. This way, that way, or another way, depending upon the circumstance. But one that doesn't do that, doesn't understand superior to whatever it is that's important that you're doing, you halt that which you're doing and feel internally and display externally proper respect. I'm going to read another verse and its purport. It comes 2 verses later. This is all he's addressing the assembly about his disrespect to Brihaspati. Here's text 15. King Indra said, "Therefore, with great frankness and without duplicity, I shall now bow my head at the lotus feet of Brihaspati, the spiritual master of the demigods." We heard this Thursday, bowing one's head before. Remember that narration? Markandeya, the son of Rakunda Rishi, and you remember that story. He changed his fate by the simple principle of elders, sadhus or elders, falling at their feet, palms folded, and seeking blessings. And with the blessings, may you live a long life. And they all said. So when he turned 16, Yamaraj came and couldn't take him away because he had the power of the blessings of great sages and elders. So then he went to Brahma. Yamaraj went to Lord Brahma, like, the high court judge, and was ready to plead his case, and little boy, 16-year-old boy, went before Lord Brahma, paid his obeisances, and fell at his feet, and asked for his blessings. And the blessings were given. May you live a long life. So Yamaraj was frustrated. He was supposed to die, but he's been seeking blessings, and that which was inexorable karma, it superseded just by asking for blessings. So we heard other examples. Maharaj Yudhishthira falling at the feet of grandfather Bhishma before the battle, asking for his blessings. May I win the war. And Bhishma gave his blessings. Surely you'll be victorious. I assure you, my blessings, etc., etc. So here is Indra saying, I've learned my lesson, and here's the antidote. After the fact, after having made this offense, I shall now bow my head at the lotus feet of Brihaspati, the spiritual master of the demigods, because he is in the mode of goodness. He is fully aware of all knowledge and is the best of the brahmanas. Now I shall touch his lotus feet and offer my obeisances unto him to try to satisfy him. And there's a nice purport, which, because I've been speaking a lot of the background to get us here, I'm going to skip. But if you want, you can read it yourself. 6, 7, 15, Bhagavatam. Here's the BBT painting depicting the scene. Up on the big seat over there on the left, that's Indra. And then there's Brihaspati on the right. He came, he didn't announce anything. He just came as an observer. Many of the demigods, they offered their obeisances, and one of them didn't. And so Brihaspati left. What happened after that was the demigods understood, oh, the one from whom he's received his strength is offended. Let's get our weapons and go invade. So they attacked the heavenly kingdom and they defeated the demigods. And Indra was powerless. The demigods took over the kingdom. It was, he was seeking forgiveness, but the mess was already in place. That is, these are laws of nature. Just as they're physical laws, they're spiritual laws, and they work 100% of the time. Now, if somebody has mystic power, they can make stones float, make a bridge to Lanka. Or, they can do things, they can walk on water and fly in the sky, and they can, mystic powers. But other than that exception, it's a law. As mystic power is also a law. There's spiritual laws. That is, on the one side and the other side, you offer respect, and you fail to offer respect. Here's a statement that Prabhupada made. The closer you know, the less you value. It was mentioned on Thursday. I'll say it again. There were devotees, two devotees in particular, that served Srila Prabhupada as his personal servant for many years. Shrutakirti and Harisori Prabhus. And they didn't lose respect. But there were others that had that service for a shorter period of time, and familiarity breeds contempt. So they started like, very special devotees. I know one in particular. I know specifically his mood, and he fell. Because by close dealing, he started becoming familiar and started offending. Not nice. The closer you know, the less you value. Prabhupada's statement. So here's a little law of Manu. There's a pan scale. On the one side is a person offering respect. Here the chart is showing the input, and then the output on the right side. And these four, according to the laws of Manu, these four symptoms of life are enhanced by one who offers respect. Besides getting blessings, life duration, ayu, wisdom, dharma, yasha, fame, and strength, bala. These four things are enhanced, and the converse is also true. These four things are enhanced by respecting elders. If a person bows down and humbly serves those who are senior to him, such a person will have an increase in these four things. Right in the laws of Manu. It's a law. And the opposite is true. Neglect and all four of these things are diminished. Naturally so, by law, by laws of Manu or laws of mankind. Offenses towards Guru. In Manu Samhita, there are similar descriptions. Fasten your seatbelt. Manu says, if a disciple argues with his spiritual master, in his next life he'll become a donkey. So that's a no-no. If a disciple criticizes his spiritual master, he'll become a dog. Bow wow. If a disciple enjoys the opulences of his guru, he'll become a worm and stool in his next life. Don't make that mistake. If a disciple is jealous of his spiritual master, he'll become a moth. And the illustration is showing a moth flying into the fire. The moth is dead, flying into the fire. So these are offenses towards Guru. Very serious consequence. There's laws. You do, and there's the good, and there's consequence. There's do the bad, and there's consequence. Here's a similar description, little different, but it's the story of Karna and Parshuram. As you know, Dronacharya was a Brahmana Acharya, and he instructed the Kauravas, which means all the sons, including the Pandavas, because they were actually Kauravas, and its military skill. But he declined to accept Karna as a student, in part because of his birth, and also in part because of his character. He was overly proud, so he didn't want to take such a student. So what did Karna do? Well, if Dronacharya, then I'll go to Parshuram, because he knew, Karna knew, that Parshuram was born a Brahmana, but some Kshatriyas killed his father. And he went on a rampage to kill the Kshatriyas all over the place, 23 times this way, that way. So he had an issue with Kshatriyas, although he was a Brahmana. And his weapon was, you see, it was a bow, an arrow, and a chopper. He chopped people. So Karna went to Parshuram and asked Parshuram to be his guru, to teach him all the skills of warfare. But in order to become his student, he lied. He said he was a Brahmana. He's not a Brahmana. He's not a Shudra, but, etc., etc. But he was treated like a Shudra because of his birth. And so he lied. And he didn't have full faith. So that the foundation of the guru-disciple relationship was off. And Parshuram is an incarnation of the Supreme Lord, so it's not like he didn't know, but the way the pastime was carried out is as if he didn't know. He taught him everything, and then when he found out, it became public, known to Parshuram that he lied. Parshuram cursed him, his disciple. And the little text here says that although it's a formal curse, it applies to us as well. Parshuram said, more or less paraphrasing, I taught you so much. You know many tricks. You know how to fight with weapons. You're brilliant with the bow. You know a lot of things. So throughout your life, you'll be able to use all this. But at the very moment when this knowledge will be most important for you, you'll not be able to apply it. And that's what happened. The curse of Parshuram. So when his chariot wheel was stuck in the mud and he did this and that, that's when his demise came. And instructed by Krishna, Arjuna did what was needful. It's a whole nice, interesting section. But it's a principle. Wrong relationship with the spiritual master. And in this case, Parshuram made a formal curse. But the explanation is, even if he doesn't make a formal curse, the principle of guru or guru tattva from the original guru, Adi Guru, who's in the heart, he imposes this curse on us if he, Paramatma, feels envy or some other wrong attitude towards the bearer of this knowledge, to whom we owe so much. So beware. It's not like don't get a guru, but when you let it be established in the proper way. Knowledge of such a person becomes destructive. The knowledge of such a person destroys himself and destroys the world around him. Couple examples. Here's from Madhu Samhita. Further offending Guru. What happens? What should you do? What should you do if in the course of serving your spiritual master, something happens where you offend or hurt the Guru? He does something, the disciple does something that's just not to be done. And when you recognize that, then what? That's a good question. It's in Manu Samhita. And in Manu Samhita, an example is given. Supposing in the course of digging a well, when you're digging a well, you're digging the earth, you have to go down and down and down and down, and then there's some living entities in the earth, worms and insects, etc., that get damaged or killed. So the explanation is given what to do. The shovel that has become muddied can be cleansed by the water that comes from the well. And service, that's when you're digging a well or doing anything in the service of Krishna, the living entities that may sacrifice their life, they get benefit because it's part of an activity that's meant for the satisfaction of Krishna. As long as the well that is being dug is for Krishna. I mean, like here we are in suburbia, and there's lots of construction companies building roads and homes, and there's destruction in the course of all that. It's unavoidable. You can't have stuff without destruction. So let that stuff happen in service to Krishna only, and not otherwise. Now that's not our modern culture. It's for money, then you do stuff, and then not otherwise. And that's not bhakti. So live your life for the purpose of pleasing Krishna, which includes pleasing the spiritual master. Here's the recommendation from Manu Samhita. One should continue to serve one's spiritual master even if one commits some offenses. Because after all, the knowledge that comes from his mouth is the very water that cleanses us, using that metaphor of the water from a well. Even if there are some imperfections, we can still ultimately achieve success and real knowledge if we consciously avoid those offenses and respectfully continue to serve him. Now, I want you all to be aware that as we did Thursday, we're going to do twice today. And that's, you have a little breakout session. What does that mean? It means I'm going to stop talking and I'm going to ask you to discuss in little groups. 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever you like. Twice in the course of this session, I'm going to ask you to have a little discussion on what we're hearing. There's specific questions. Just be prepared. So, in Mahabharata, there's another narration, and it's not so lengthy, but it's about Yavakrita. Yavakrita was a fellow, a brahmana, and he had an issue about performing austerities and being humble and submissive to a guru. He just didn't want to do it. So he had a different idea. I'll just do austerities. And I heard Vishwamitra did stuff like that, and look what he went. He was a Kshatriya, became a Brahmana. So that's what I'm going to do. And Indra gave Yavakrita advice. Don't go that path. Take the path of humility and render humble service to a qualified teacher, qualified acharya. And he didn't want to do that, so he just did his austerities. And, as from the diagram, really intense austerity for a really long time. And sure enough, he gained power. But because his power was superimposed upon pride, it became a weapon. And the weapon eventually, with details, destroyed him and destroyed his family. Because he was not just a single person, he was a family man, and he got destroyed. So knowledge without humility is just useless. Not only useless, it can destroy yourself and destroy the world, like karna. Here's another example, again from Mahabharata. And both Ashwatthama, his son, Dronacharya's son, and Arjuna, of course, many other students were studying under Dronacharya. So when it came to giving lessons about the Brahmastra, Ashwatthama was familiar with his father, and so his father taught him how to release the Brahmastra, but not how to withdraw it. That was a problem. And the problem resulted in destruction. But Arjuna, quite distinct from Ashwatthama, wasn't familiar. He had the mood of service. And because of the right mood, when it came to teachings about the chakra, this mystic power, he learned how to, the Brahmastra, he learned how to release it and how to withdraw it. So he used the withdraw it power to give protection, to stop and then to protect. Because it wasn't just once released, that's it. Knowledge received wrongly becomes pride. It destroys the user and fails to provide what is actually needed. So it's a little bit like all of these examples. They're examples. It's a little bit like a lawyer building a case. Knowledge is not mere information. Yes, in Bhagavad Gita or in the Bhagavatam or in Vedic life, there's a lot of information, extraordinary information. But information alone is insufficient. Rather, the power that transforms theoretical knowledge into practical application comes from the Guru's blessings. So don't try to go forward without blessings. Here's the phrase on the upper right. This phrase is Chanakya Pandit's phrase. The phrase indicates the principle of serving elders. And the principle of serving elders bears a fruit. I mean, in sequence, but vijnana. Because the elder sadhu gives knowledge, not just theoretical knowledge, but realized knowledge. And that realized knowledge means self-realization and then God realization or the Supreme Spirit. Realized knowledge comes from serving seniors. That's the teaching of Chanakya Pandit. For those who are with us on Thursday, part 1. And then, if one has this realized knowledge, realizing the soul, one can realize the soul with a capital A, the Supreme Soul, with the help of realizing who we really are. Finally, the Supreme Atma conquers the whole world. One who realizes that has everything. Not just like power and might and swords, but spiritual strength. So the root is this respect of elders. Here's another nice example. Some of you, hopefully, have received a PDF that has Valmiki Ramayana's version. Note, what you're going to hear is not Valmiki Ramayana's version. It's Tulsi Ramcharitamana's version. But it's okay. But just be aware it's different. So, when it came to the Swayamvar of Sita, Janaka understood, because he's one of our Mahajans, he understood his daughter is not just a nice girl. I mean, the way that she appeared and her quality and her character, he understood. She's extraordinary. And so he wanted her husband to be an extraordinary husband. At least, as a Kshatriya, because he was a Kshatriya, his daughter should marry a Kshatriya or a Brahmana, then the husband should be a hero. So he decided, he had called for the princes and kings from all over all directions to come to his palace. And it's her Swayamvar. And the declaration for everyone to hear ye, whoever can lift this bow of Lord Shiva will become the husband of Sita. And the bow, there's some history. From Valmiki Ramayana, the history is there. The bow was given previously to the family line of Janaka as a gift because of some service they did, and Lord Shiva, gave his own bow. But the bow was really heavy, like extraordinarily heavy. So you can read in the document how heavy. It took 30 men with an 18-wheeled cart to pull the bow, just to bring it to Lord Ram to string. But that's not what's described here. What's described here is, he then made the announcement, any one of you here, all the big assembly of princes and kings, you can marry my daughter if you can lift the bow. Just lift the bow. Just lift the bow. And 100 kings tried, and 100 kings failed. So, according to Ramcharitmanas, after almost everyone had tried, Janaka came on stage and began to shout, "Let no proud warrior king take offense when I say, there remains no true hero upon this earth. Abandon all your hopes and return to your kingdoms. It seems that it is not the will of the divine that Sita be wed." You see in the background, there's all these kings, and two of the persons present, three of the persons present, Lakshman, Ram, and Vishwamitra, they were in that assembly, according to Ramcharitmanas. Hearing these words, Lakshmana became angry. He jumped up and began to speak. You better be more careful with these expressions. No more heroes. My elder brother is with me. If I need to deal with this bow myself, I'll break it into pieces right now. This image is right from the internet, describing the scene from Ramcharitmanas. And Ram heard what he said, but Ram kind of like looked out the window. He was not fazed at all. Silent and fully detached. He heard everything. He saw everything. And he was not fazed. Although his name was mentioned by Lakshman. According to Ramcharitmanas, at that moment, Vishwamitra didn't say anything, but with his eyes, he gave a signal and a nod of the head. And Ramachandra knew what that meant. Only after his spiritual master gave him the indication did he respond. He fell at the feet of his guru, touched his feet, and said, "If you are blessing me, then I will do it." And he not only lifted the bow, but he broke the bow when stringing it. That's in the Bhagavatam. Everyone else relied on their own strength, but Ram relied on the order and blessing of his guru. He had the power, but he didn't exhibit the power until the guru gave him the nod, the indication. I'm going to give a little example, a contemporary example. Somebody I know, without mentioning the name, they were invited to be a speaker at a large assembly somewhere. And this particular individual was a little on the shy side. They didn't see themselves as a big orator, what to speak of a big stage with lots of. So they were like, I don't want to. But what should I do? It's like, like Arjuna. What's my duty? Blank slate. What's my duty? With some reservation. And they wanted the order of their guru. So I said, you're not pushing yourself on the stage. You're being asked by the organizers that you be one of the speakers. It's like, without going into the details of the circumstances, it's a very honorable position. So, don't do it as, don't do it or not do it for the wrong reasons. Do for the right reason. It's a service. And do it as a service. That's all. Whatever you have received from various sources in your life, you give what you've received. That's charity, right? Supposing you have some wealth. Supposing you have something. You like to sing. So you give that something. Where'd you get it? From some other people that taught you how to sing and use that little harmonium, and so you receive and then you give. It's a simple bhakti principle. I'll give another, a more contemporary, a reasonably contemporary example. This is from Burijan Prabhu's My Glorious Master. He narrates his exchanges with Prabhupada, and one of those circumstances was he was a single man, and then by Prabhupada's arrangement, apparently Prabhupada saw, you're suited to become a grahastha. So he, Prabhupada, made a request for Jagatarini, who was a budding actress in Australia, but had become a disciple of Prabhupada before she even met Burijan. Here's your husband. Go marry him. I don't know if she even saw a picture. She just, like Prabhupada said, and so she packed her bags and went and married Burijan. They're still married. Everything's very nice. She's wonderful. He's wonderful. Their children are wonderful. Everything's wonderful. But the order of the spiritual master. And then after some time, Burijan understood, now I'm married, and in time we'll have children. But before we have children, I need to have ability to support my wife and child yet to come. So what he did, along with preaching, he became a bricklayer. No, not it. He's a college graduate, a brilliant brahmana, but he had to have some income, so that's what he did. And then when he had the opportunity to be with Prabhupada, he asked, is it okay? And the bricklayer occupation. And here was Prabhupada's answer. It's really nice. Krishna consciousness is very simple. You learn something, become proficient at that something, and teach others that something. That's Krishna consciousness. That was his answer. And then he said, if you want to know, I can teach you how to make bricks. So without Burijan saying, yeah, I want to learn how to make bricks, Prabhupada explained it. Here's what you do. 1, 2, 3. Prabhupada knew so many things about so many things. So you take mud and shape it in the shape of the brick. And then you take a piece of wood, put the mud on top of the wood, and ignite the fire. Come back in the morning, you got a brick. He just like conversation. So Burijan tried it. And sure enough, he made a brick. It's like, wow, Prabhupada knows everything. And he didn't do that profession for too long, but Prabhupada was teaching him a principle. It's good to understand principles. How are you going to make decisions about your life and guiding others that you interact with? So this is principle based. Take blessings, and then you know what to do. So here's the discussion. This isn't the question. This is the next slide has the questions, and then I'm going to stop, and you're going to have your little breakout groups. The root of respect is respect for seniors, ultimately to God, who is personified in our lives as our spiritual masters, plural. Everything starts from the relationship with the spiritual masters, plural. At least it should, if we have built this relationship correctly, unlike what Karna did. We will be able to start communicating correctly with everyone else. That's the root. Then there's the tree. If we have not built this relationship correctly, all attempts to build relationships with others will also end in failure. We must realize how we can rebuild our whole life from this principle, from this root. If we learn to respect our spiritual masters and take him seriously, everything follows. It's clear. So here's the discussion. There's 3 questions. When the relationship with the spiritual master is more or less built properly, what problems go away? How does it become easier to build relationships with others in the right way? Vice versa. When this relationship is not there, or there's a mistake, or something is wrong, something is not working, how do other problems arise? Sociology 101. You're all sitting next to somebody. Find somebody that you're comfortable having a conversation with, and I'm going to stop speaking for a few minutes. On your mark, get set, go. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We'll have one more at the very end, so keep your groups ready. This image on the screen is meant to represent a heart, and a heart that's kind of got cut off from the rest of what hearts are made up of, and very hard and dry on a part of the earth that looks like it was a river bed, but the river dried up and cracked mud and an unhealthy condition. Without humility, gratitude, and respect, you have that situation. However, with humility, gratitude, and respect, it's certainly possible, common, the heart softens. Otherwise, it remain tough. The hard heart, never be any sublime feelings. Therefore, regardless of what negative experiences we may have had, we still need to show willingness to offer respect. This is the only way we can bring about transformation in our hearts, and then, from our hearts to others. And that's the topic that we're going to be speaking about next. Bhaktivinoda Thakur takes this topic and expands it by saying that the Guru Tattva principle is not only in Guru, but it's a principle. And the principle goes to these three categories. This is in his writings. Chaitanya Shikshamrita. Parents, teachers, and elders. A person should follow the instructions of his parents and serve them as much as possible. A person should serve those who protected him when he was a helpless child. One should also serve those who gave him knowledge, especially spiritual knowledge, and who gave him mantra. Now there's a certain kind of thinking, it came out in our questions and answer session. What if somebody is not perfect? And what do you do when you find, by close association, this person who I should be considering as worthy of respect, they have mistakes, they have flaws, they have imperfections. So, this is Bhaktivinoda Thakur, a different way of saying what he writes. A person may be either seen as perfect and placed on a pedestal, or if he makes one small mistake, we immediately trample him in the mud. We demand perfection, or we offer total rejection. We lack the nuance to respect imperfect seniors. So there's a lot to say about imperfect seniors. Here's one thing. Supposing the imperfect senior, a family member or some relative, or even one's parents, they want you to get them some liquor. The image is showing you say no to that request, but you don't fail to offer respect. Disobedience to the order of a superior is not a license for disrespect to the person. So you don't have to comply with something that's a no-no, but you don't have to disrespect the person because it's a no-no that they're saying. Here's Bhaktivinoda Thakur's balanced approach. Even if a senior gives a wrong instruction, we should not follow it, but we should never be disrespectful, because the senior always remains a senior. And then Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes, a person should try to stop or protect seniors from wrong behavior or wrong instructions. Now, how is that to be done? Respectfully. And if you don't know how to do it respectfully, then be silent. But there's a way to speak. This is the recommendation. Use very sweet words with humility and gently exhorting them at the right moment. Now, that's a principle. I said this on Thursday. I don't mind repeating it. My mother taught me, if you don't have something nice to say, don't say anything at all. And if you have something that's important to be said, say it nicely. Here's a nice example, one example of many. Here's the Sudarshan Chakra chasing Durvasa Muni because he offended Maharaj Ambarish. And Durvasa Muni didn't know, but Sudarshan Chakra was standing right by the side of Maharaj Ambarish, so he sent the fiery demon. The Sudarshan Chakra chopped the fiery demon and went after Durvasa Muni. So he went all the way to the abode of Lord Vishnu after Brahma and Shiva, and they couldn't do anything. In the 9th canto, here's what happens. Durvasa Muni went all the way to Vishnu, to the abode of Vishnu, very qualified person. It took him a whole year to get there. And when I hear this, I was always wondering, how fast was he traveling? Because how fast does Sudarshan Chakra travel? The Sudarshan Chakra couldn't catch him? Really? Anyway, that's what the narration is. And when he came before Lord Vishnu, the essence wasn't what Lord Vishnu said. You come to the wrong person. If you want to ask for forgiveness, you must go to Ambarish and ask for forgiveness. Here's what he said, respectfully. Oh, great Brahmana, oh, great sage, oh, respected person, you're in error by coming to me. Which is the same thing, said nicely or respectfully. And Srila Prabhupada was very expert at this. I mentioned it, now here's some graphics to illustrate it. On the occasion of Brahmananda's initiation, Brahmananda was one of the first devotees to come to 26 Second Avenue. In fact, he was instrumental in helping to find it and got the contract. And he was a capable person. And at the time of his initiation, his mother came. And here's a little illustration of his mother. She sat in a chair, and she looked like she was going to burn everything in sight. And she was angry at her son. She was angry at her second son, and she was angry at Prabhupada. Because Brahmananda had persuaded his younger brother, who became Gargamuni, to leave college and become a Hare Krishna guy. And Mom was like really upset. And she looks upset. And both sons were being initiated at the same time. When she sat down, everything looked like she was going to turn everything into ashes. When Prabhupada saw it, he turned to Brahmananda. Go bow down to her first. Receive her blessings to accept initiation. So he did. And Brahmananda went and bowed down. And his mother was surprised, but she then spoke directly to Prabhupada. There's one thing I don't understand. What's wrong with Judaism? Why do you dislike Judaism? Prabhupada heard what she said. She was directed to him. And he turned to Brahmananda and said, bow to her again. So he did. And she didn't know how to respond. And he's seeking blessings for his initiation, that she's in this indignant mood, calling Prabhupada's names, what's your dislike of Judaism? Prabhupada was teaching Brahmananda you somehow or another receive blessings from your mother. No, the story ended happily. She got the message. She, at least in a formal way, said, "You have my blessings." Right on the spot. It wasn't a full U-turn, but because Prabhupada. Here's one of the things that Prabhupada said to her, in addition to asking for blessings. And when it came time for the initiation lecture, he just spoke to her and said nice things to her. Like, there's a saying in Bengal that you can know the quality of a tree by testing the quality of the fruit of the tree. And your sons are both very wonderful, so I can know you're very wonderful. Your character and your son's character, I know your character from your son's character. They're very wonderful. You've done a wonderful job raising two wonderful boys. Please give your blessings. Again, he's asking, because she'd already kind of consented. And in course of time, she became very respectful of Prabhupada because she saw the character, not only this scene here, paying obeisances to her, because, that's not Western culture, it's not Jewish culture, it's not what people do. But she saw other features of their personality and character, or they were gifted, capable persons, but their character had been transformed, which was the gift of Srila Prabhupada, along with the rest of Krishna consciousness. And there are other circumstances where Prabhupada had to deal with. During that period of time, there was like a lot of commotion about a lot of young people becoming Hare Krishna devotees, young Western people. So the parents were like, what's going on? It's an interesting history. There was a fellow, his name was Ted Patrick, and he became wealthy by using what he called deprogramming children of parents. The parents would go to him and hire him, and he'd try kidnap them and try to deprogram, take them into a sweat lodge and work them over, so they would renounce Krishna consciousness. He got a fee for it. It didn't usually work. Plus, it was criminal what he was doing. But Prabhupada dealt with parents that were disturbed. You're stealing our children. Their whole life, they're very dedicated to me, mom and dad, and what's going on? And they wouldn't just go to the son, their daughter. They would sometimes, but they would sometimes come directly to Prabhupada. And what did Prabhupada do? Well, one of the things he did is he gave them prasadam, but he also gave them respect. Not by arguing philosophy, by complimenting them in ways like he complimented Brahmananda's mother, and with other ways of genuine, because he's a gentleman, and with respect he treated others. He knew how to melt people's hearts. And because their hearts became melted by the Krishna consciousness of our founder Acharya, they felt differently when they left. And some of them became very positive. Here's a nice example. One parent couple and their daughter. And they became really worried about what was going on with their daughter. But their daughter understood their parents. And so by instruction from her spiritual master, she, not artificially, but in a genuine way, treated her mother and father the way that mothers and fathers should be treated, with respect and dignity and kind words and service. And they saw transformation, parents saw transformation in her they liked. Whatever this is that you're into, you're not abandoning us, you becoming a quality individual. So they became very pleased with whatever it was that she was into. And then in some cases, as in this particular photograph, the parents later became devotees themselves. is, a U-turn. But so she, the daughter, had learned from her spiritual master how to be respectful, render service, and melt hearts. A senior remains a senior for us. This is exactly Bhaktivinoda's teaching. By insulting a senior, we insult God within them. We destroy the possibility of true spiritual relationships. If it's true with those persons so close to us as parents and family members, then what's going to happen in other directions going out? When we show respect for seniors, we can actually change people's hearts. In fact, this is the only way to change their hearts. Respect is the most powerful tool in preaching. The opposite. There's a verse in the Bhagavatam, hogs, dogs, camels, asses. People that don't take the bhakti. You've heard that verse, right? Yes? No? Some of don't know. Okay. There's a verse. Shukadeva Goswami says, those who are gross materialists, they're like an animal, hog, dogs, camels, asses. So sometimes devotees speak like that about those who aren't devotees. One preacher emphasized, demons, you're all demons, but you're not going to change people's hearts that way, giving them names and insulting them. Rather, it makes the heart harder. So just the opposite. Just the opposite. Respect. Now, what if somebody's not so respectable? This is one of the questions that came up with for our youth the other day. Find something that you like. I like your smile. You smile really nicely. It's something that you just change the topic from their harshness to their respect. Here's a few examples, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu examples. So, after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted sannyas, you know the history. His plan was to go to Vrindavan, to be in Krishna's holy abode in Vrindavan. However, Lord Nityananda tricked him. Lord Nityananda, whenever Lord Chaitanya in a delirious state, which way is Vrindavan, he'd say that way. And the plan was to direct him to the house of Advaita Acharya in Shantipur. The reason Shantipur, because it was not far from Navadvip, and Mother Sachi could come then and meet her son after sannyas. So there she is crying, I've lost my son, my beloved son, he's not here anymore. And Mahaprabhu replied, I must have gone crazy. I'm out of my mind. Only a madman can leave such a mother. There's no one better than you in the whole world. I owe you everything I have. I owe all credit only to you. And if you say to me now, give up sannyas, live with me, I'll give up sannyas and live with you. And Sachi, being a cultured lady, no. If you give up sannyas, you'll cover both your head and my head with shame. You have taken sannyas, remain a sannyasi, but live nearby, so I can sometimes receive news about you. And the nearby for her was go to Puri, because she knew he wanted to go to Vrindavan. And not only nearby, but because the devotees from Bengal go to Rath Yatra every year, when they come back, they can give me news about you. She's transcendental attachment for a transcendental personality, natural. The respect that a person shows truly changes people's attitudes. So not cosmetic respect, but genuine respect. Melts hearts. Here's a couple more examples. Mahaprabhu's example. This one is his meeting with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. You know the story. He went to Puri, and he swooned in a state of ecstasy and fell on the ground unconscious, right in front of the deity and the temple room floor. And the guards thought, this this person is a wild madman. They were going to toss him out. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya happened to come right exactly at that time. And he said, no, no, no. Bring him to my home. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya wanted to examine, is this a pretender or is this a genuine person in trance? You know the story. So what did he do? Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya took a ball of cotton, took a few strands of cotton, and with the strands of cotton, held the cotton in front of his nostrils. Because if he was cheating, he was just regularly breathing with his eyes closed. If he was in trance, the life air was suspended. The cotton strands wouldn't move. The cotton strand didn't move. He's not faking. He's in trance. So he tried this and that and the other thing to bring him to external consciousness, ways that he knew nothing worked. Then his devotees, headed by Lord Nityananda, they found out where he was. They went to where he was. They had kirtan. And he came to external consciousness. And then it's a discussion between Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, super scholar. Super scholar means he had thousands of sannyas students, and he's a grihastha. You know, he's respected because of his learning and his age. So he volunteered. You're a very handsome young 24-year-old sannyasi. How are you going to maintain your sannyas vows? If you like, I can instruct you in Vedanta Sutra, and then you'll be protected. And Lord Chaitanya smiled and nodded, and, oh, you're very kind. 7 days, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya from morning till night instructed in Vedanta Sutra according to Shankaracharya's teachings. And Lord Chaitanya just sat there silently, saying nothing. On the 8th morning, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said, I don't know if you're understanding my teachings. You don't say anything. You understand what I'm saying? And Lord Chaitanya said, I understand Vedanta Sutra very well, but your explanations are covering the meaning of Vedanta Sutra every time you speak. Oh? Well, then if you understand, then you explain you explain Vedanta Sutra to me. But for 7 days, knowing that everything he was saying was nonsense, he didn't say, stop this nonsense. He just listened respectfully for 7 days. He gave dignity to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya for being what he was, a very learned Brahmana. Another nice example, also from Chaitanya Charitamrita. There was a situation, without all the details, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in a place where there was the headquarters of Mayavadi sannyasis. The chief amongst the sannyasis, a big group of sannyasis, was Prakashananda Saraswati. That was his name. So Lord Chaitanya didn't have any interactions with them, but the devotees with whom Lord Chaitanya was staying were hearing these criticisms by the Mayavad sannyasis. Who is this young fellow that he associates with worldly people and sings and dances like, a wild man, and what criticizing. And the devotees were pained to hear it. So they asked Lord Chaitanya, can you address them? He was reluctant, but he went because they kept insisting. So when he came, as the painting illustrates, outside their assembly hall is a place where you wash your feet. So he washed his feet and sat in the place where you wash your feet, which is an unclean place. You don't sit in that area, besides the water that spills all over. The place is unclean. And so they came, and he was asked, why are you sitting in a place where people wash their feet, some unclean place like this? And Mahaprabhu replied, no, I'm the youngest among you. I will sit here. I'm not eligible to be with all you senior elevated persons. So in the course of this exchange, knowing that they're Mayavadis, Lord Chaitanya decided to exhibit his Brahman effulgence. And when he exhibited his Brahman effulgence, they were like, wow, that's our worshipable destination. And he's the source of that worshipable destination. But it started with respect. Although he knew what they were up, they were defiling him, and their teachings are diametrically opposite his teachings. He didn't take issue with any of that. He just offered respect. And it changed their heart. So in the end, as you see, he's extending his hand, please come sit with us. And then they started humbly and submissively asking Mahaprabhu various questions. And so as a result, he spoke Bhagavad Dharma. So then we're reaching closure. Yay. Here's a young devotee with her father. And her father is taking issue with, what happened to her life. You were an educated career girl, and now you're doing this. What happened? And challenging. So she bowed, so we can do the same. Something that changes hearts is this respect, internally or externally. Bow, offer respect, ask for blessings, and then see what happens inside you as well as what happens inside them. See if it melts their heart. Now, many of the persons in the room may have had this experience or may not have had this experience. I had mine. And what the teaching that's being presented here is what happened in my life. I didn't disrespect mom and dad. They went through their changes like, what's going on with this young man? Anyway, without all that history, just by the qualities I found, several things. The fact that I was devoting myself in a very focused way to serve the Supreme, although the form and the manner of the service to the Supreme is different than theirs, they understood that's what I was doing. And they were pleased by that. Not, they didn't go, why not our tradition instead of that tradition? But they were pleased because I was living my life in that way. So then this is all about us, and people that may not be appreciating what we're doing. So if you're having some discomfort, and that you recognize they're having some discomfort, what's going on inside yourself? And are you acting in devotion sincerely? And how do you interact with others to melt their hearts? The principle is this. It's simple. A senior sees you have become humble and respectful towards them. And naturally they want to give blessings. It's just natural. It may be uncomfortable for them a little bit, a little awkward or something, but if there's consistency in your attitude, this is a natural sequence. He wants something that he has. Naturally, something he has spills over and overflows. Relationships are not static. Even in very difficult situations, jealousy, distance, cultural barriers, they can be changed. If we behave properly and offer sincere respect, we invite an evolution that neither side expected. So this is the end. Humility is not weakness. It's a power to obtain blessings and change reality. Respect melts the heart. It changes the attitude. Go and practice alchemy. Well, here's the discussion, the second discussion session, then we're done. I'll read it because the script is not so big. Share stories or personal experiences, moments when your words or someone else's words transformed another person's attitude, and how respect opened the door for blessings. This is mom and dad and friends and younger generation people dealing with older generation people, and respect and the right words spoken in the right way at the right time can be very, and consistently also can make a big change. So, clear? Discussion time. Go ahead. Discussion groups, please. Okay, I think it's time to close up shop. Wind up your discussions. I just looked at my watch. We've been going for 2 hours. And pretty much everyone's still here. I'm amazed. Let's see if there's some discussion. Any comments you'd like to explore further or questions? He's the official microphone runner.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. When you said that, like when you don't control your knowledge, like it becomes pride. Like how do you control it?
How do you control pride? That's
No,
what you want to know?
the knowledge.
How do you control knowledge? You're guided by knowledge. Knowledge will control you, not you control knowledge. So how do you get knowledge? From people who have knowledge. So Super Soul, the Lord, Adi Guru, the Super Soul, and your teacher, your guru, and those persons who are senior to you, and you approach them in a humble way, and they're very happy to give knowledge. And then that can guide your mind and senses. Intelligence is stronger than mind and intelligence. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. When you're sharing about disrespecting spiritual master, disrespecting Guru,
Yeah.
4 items graphically it was in one slide. Like,
You're
if
pretty
you-
strong, huh?
yeah,
Manu didn't. He took off the boxing
donkey,
gloves.
dog, and
Bare fist.
one of them was, if you use the opulence of your Guru, you become the worm in the stool. So I have a specific question about that. What exactly is the using opulence of your Guru? Like, sometime, like, we use as prasadam.
No, not that. So,
I mean, I'm specific about, let's say, sometime food is prasadam, that's okay.
yeah.
But like, like Prabhupada's dhoti, for example, or, some other things used, for example, like, there may be other items, furniture
Sure,
or something.
The tadiya, the paraphernalia of the
Yeah.
spiritual master.
Yeah, so how,
Well, supposing Prabhupada gave slippers, and you think, yeah, I got nice slippers now. I'm going to wear Prabhupada's slippers. There's an example. Or, Prabhupada chanted on these beads. So, one thing is that you treat them as worshipable, and another is you utilize for your own aggrandizement. Specifically, that's it, for your own enjoyment or your own comforts. So, for example, here's an example. Very good one. Shyamasundar, Prabhupada disciple Shyamasundar, he had an opportunity. He saw an opportunity to make some money. So he took some ISKCON money to invest it in a business to make money. His intention was to make money for ISKCON, for Prabhupada, but he lost the money. There's a business venture that went sour. So he felt terrible. So he focused on repaying that money that he had taken, and Hari Sori met him, and he had was so intensely absorbed in what he was doing that he neglected his sadhana. And so Hari Sori wrote to Prabhupada, what to do about this situation. Prabhupada wrote back, I hear some child voices over there in the corner. What's going on? Shh. Thank you. Prabhupada wrote back, tell him that if one person becomes a sincere soul, then all the properties that we have and everything else become fulfilled just by this one thing. He, Syamasundar, is a very sincere soul, that he gave his life to my service, so I honor him. And tell him to return to his sadhana, and don't worry about repaying. But enjoying the property of the spiritual master was the question. With some examples. Okay? And here's another, just in principle. When we started, ISKCON had no money. Like, zip. So, from time to time, there were rented buildings, and then after some time happened, there was an owned building. But, now that we own it, it's not like it's the spiritual masters. That's how the disciple sees. So I don't become the enjoyer of this newly found opulent situation when before I was poor. Not poor because they weren't from wealthy families. They just lived a life of renunciation, and whatever Krishna gave, that's what we had. But then when there was opulence instead of, bare minimum, don't become the enjoyer of it. It's the property of the spiritual master. That's the view. Okay?
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. I have a comment and a question, Guru Maharaj. The comment is the Chanakya Niti.
Is the what?
Chanakya Niti, the steps.
Oh, Chanakya Niti, right.
I was thinking about Narada Muni's previous life. I felt like each and every step that Guru Maharaj explained, Narada Muni went through, serving, sense control, humility, self-realization. So I was just comparing that with the Narada Muni's previous life, Guru Maharaj. So my question is about Vidura. Vidura was insulted, and he took that opportunity to purify himself.
He took that opportunity to do what?
To purify.
Purify himself, okay.
We pray to Krishna for purification. But sometimes that purification comes in the form of difficulties.
Yeah. You've noticed.
And if the difficulties are in a small increment, it's okay to handle it. But when it comes in big doses, we say to Krishna, do I really need this purification? Because it's too much sometimes.
It's never too much. Krishna knows better than you know. This is Prabhupada's teaching. Krishna never puts into a difficulty that we're not capable of handling. Difficulty, yes. Major difficulty, yes. But not, Krishna knows what we're able to handle. So what may very well be the case, not always, tat te nukampam so samikshamano, the verse. Canto 10, chapter 14, text number 8. Accepted as mercy. I know it may be intense. Bhaktisiddhanta's language is fire of ordeal, but Krishna never puts us in a situation that's we're not capable of handling. So it may last for a long time, may be very serious, but Krishna knows our capacity, and he doesn't put his Like a father doesn't put his son into a difficulty that the son can't handle. He's a loving father. He knows what we can handle. When you're going through it, it's, it may be the fire ordeal. Bhaktisiddhanta's language is, when someone is very sincere, Krishna places them in a situation of fire ordeal to strengthen their singular focus of dependence upon Krishna. Because there's nothing left. That's good. Krishna's mercy.
That's all.
Someone else. Yeah.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So, Lord Chaitanya, although being the Supreme Lord, showed humility and listened to Mayavadev's philosophy. So how do we develop that humility?
How do we develop that humility? Well, that's a topic we've been discussing for 2 hours. But you look up, and there are those who are superior to you by age or spiritual or whatever. And by looking up to those persons, you respect and serve those persons. And that's how humility awakens and grows. And then, like this prior question, when I'm doing that, and then this difficulty. So you continue in the direction of shelter taking, and the fire of ordeal may stimulate further degrees of humility that you never knew before. So because I have faith in the process of respecting superiors, especially spiritual superiors, and that cultivates my humility, and do some nice service. Try to find out, this is a response to your question, try to find out what's meaningful to those superiors and do that. Because it's meaningful to them. So let me do that. I'll give a little example. An example of, in the beginning, even before Prabhupada came to America, he brought with him these first three volumes of Canto 1 Bhagavatam. Notice on the cover of that original Bhagavatam, there was a painting depicting the spiritual world, and over there in the corners, the material world, and Prabhupada wanted pictures. So when he got to America, and there was some beginning following, he asked some devotees to become artists and paint. There were two categories of paintings as they began. One was for altars, Panchatattva paintings. So the devotee, and then paintings for the books, those two categories. So the devotees would make paintings of Panchatattva. And they made paintings of them looking like muscle men, like big biceps. And so Prabhupada saw the paintings and chuckled and said, "Why like this?" And they said, "Well, people respect people who look very strong." He said, "They're not meat eaters. They're slender." So he would course correction, but to be in the service of Prabhupada, to be in the service of an exalted person, that cultivates humility. And then when he gives some correction, you don't put your hand on your hips and say, "What are you talking about?" I know how to paint so people are attracted to Lord Chaitanya. He's got big arms. This humility by serving superiors. And there's many, 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 many manifestations of that. But it's a principle. Serve superiors. And humility grows. Naturally. Because it's already within. The other is pride. And that's not natural. That's a diseased condition. The pride is curbed and humility grows by serving superiors. It works. Oh, it may take some time, but that's the principle.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. I have a comment and a question.
Hold the
com-
microphone a little further away because your voice is strong.
Okay, sure. At the starting of the class, you talked about how the culture of getting up and receiving.
The
So I
culture
have-
of?
Getting up and receiving when seniors walk in. So I have a comment on that because when you grew up in India, so that's naturally, it's in our culture that we do that. When you see elders, seniors, or even in the workplace, when manager comes in or the director
Yeah.
comes in, we get up.
Yeah.
So after I moved back to US, it was my first experience when I went to work.
You don't do that anymore.
Yes.
Everything becomes flat.
So I was so new when my manager walked in. I was the only one getting up and everybody was sitting. So it was like awkward for me. So I didn't know totally about that. So it happened a couple of times, but I felt uncomfortable because my body was want to get up.
Get up.
But
Or within your heart.
Ye-
You can do it internally also.
yeah, so it was like, I felt then my colleague said, oh, we see everyone equal. You don't have to get up, you know. So I felt like, oh, this culture is very nice. You know, you don't have to.
And then you found out it's not very nice.
Yes. So this was before I was come to ISKCON.
Yeah, I
so,
understand. I got it. I got it.
So, but now I learned really a lot of things about that deeply and more detail. How it helps with our character, shape our character, and also I learned that in between somewhere that our prana energy also gets up,
Yeah.
goes up
Yeah.
when you
Yeah.
do that. So that's the only point I knew. But today, because thanks for the presentation, Maharaj, you brought a lot of details on that. Thank you for that. And my next thing is just to make sure that what I understood and what I'm applying as a practical application. Just want to make sure that a couple of instructions that I follow is correct, because, like, for example, if a devotee comes to me and talks to me nicely in French,
And
but
what
goes-
and talks to you and
yeah, and then
what was the phrase you spoke? They come to you, they speak to you, and
speak to you. I mean, in front, they speak to you nicely.
in front of you they speak to you nicely.
But is their nature, like, you know, they on the back they can behave differently.
Okay, that happens.
So and then again, it can happen as if nothing had happened. They talk to you nicely, but it will hurt you a little bit. So I'm trying to, in that case, I'm not trying to blame anybody, but as I always remember your instructions, few instructions that I follow. One of them is like, before pointing others, just point towards yourself and correct yourself.
Yeah.
So I try to just say in that circumstances, what I did is right or wrong, you know, anything needed that I need to be correcting that point.
Okay.
The other one is, you always says that to overcome the envy or ego, see that how Krishna is pleased in that situation by your behavior.
Yeah.
So try to apply best to my, you know, that point. The other one is.
You're giving a class. What can you have a question? Or you just want to give a
No,
class?
I'm trying to remember your instructions, which you gave like a long time before in Bhagavad Gita 9.1, that Krishna doesn't like, you know, if you are envy, we cannot even understand Krishna properly. That's what Krishna gives that instructions. So all that instructions, I remember it to overcome my envy or false ego, whatever is blocking my service. So I just focus on my service and still trying to not to get caught by my emotions or hurt feelings.
Can you keep
But
it
try
short?
to-
This is
So
too long.
is this few things what I'm applying is in that situation? Is it okay to apply practically
Of
every
course.
time?
Why are you asking this
instead of-
question? You heard, and you're trying to apply. Is it okay?
Yes.
Of course. Why are you asking the question?
I
My
seek-
question is, why are you asking the
I
question?
seek your blessings that I
Oh,
apply it
blessing.
fully, so that I can really remember it and apply it in situations I can grow in my spiritual things, Maharaj. Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. Huh? Yeah, I think we have to end. You have the last question. You can relax now. This is the last question.
The culture that we have been brought up, sometimes with the elders, including parents, if we are not in agreement,
Yeah, it happens.
and respectfully sometimes saying no is perceived as disrespect.
What's perceived? The fact that you disagree is perceived as
As a
disrespect.
disrespect.
Well, it depends. You know, and if you agree on getting them some alcohol. I mean, that's an extreme one, but you know, something that's by Vaishnava Sangha, you've understood some things are not okay and some things are okay, and it may be not the same as what mom and dad have as their what's okay, what's not okay, and they perceive it as you're disrespectful.
And they expect us to say yes.
There's two responses. Did you attend the Gitanagari retreat when Garuda was the speaker?
Online, Maharaj.
Remember?
Yes.
Some of you may not know. Garuda I've known him for many, many years. He got a PhD in Harvard University in Sanskrit. I was a regional secretary in Boston when he was going to school at Harvard University getting his PhD. So that's where I know him from. And then over time, you know, a relationship. So he was invited, I invited him to be a co-presenter at our Gitanagari retreat the same weekend that we've been doing for 37 years now. And more recently, Sadhu Sangha retreat is the same weekend. It's the Memorial Day weekend. So there's two events and people can choose. So he was a guest speaker. And he was saying, one of his answers to something like this, he's very funny. So he said, give them the Indian head wobble. And then he went on, and, you know, everyone laughed, and he said, but Indians know what it means. The same motion can mean I agree, it means I disagree, it means it's okay, it's not okay. You know, it can mean 6 things. And, you know, people know what it means. When you don't have to say anything, just the head wobble. So give them one of those. That's an option. And they'll you know, they may ask you, well, do you agree or you not agree? And just and it's a cultural way of being respectful without being disrespectful. Another option is change the subject. You know, they may go with you as you change the subject. They may want to just stay on the one subject. You know, but so, you know, then you may have, they want to pin you down, and you're just, most of what you've taught me, and including, you know, what you're saying now, is teaching that I really value, and thank you very much. You've given me so much, like this nice teaching that Lord Chaitanya gave to his mother. he melted her heart, and because she was a lady of character. No, no, no. Don't give up sannyas. So, in different ways, other than that particular point that they're trying to put their finger in your chest and get you to say yes instead of no. By melting their hearts, they may stop pointing the finger in your chest and insisting you say yes instead of no. Find ways to they can understand that you respect them, and not false, genuine. Here's the ways it's a diversion, in one sense. My dear parents, let me recite the ways in which you have given me values that I cherish and I live by, and you remember this, remember that, remember the other, and thank you. And see what happens.
Thank you.
But you're not disrespecting, you're not making fibs. But you don't depart from saying something that's truthful, spoken respectfully. Somehow. I'm going to end. Srila Prabhupada ki